We live in a world today where there are several 100 million people starving to death. They're starving to death right now. All over this country today, there is a certain demoralization. And the demoralization is that some people believe that what goes on in the White House and what goes on in the Congress reflects the will of the American people. And by assembling here today, as the Rainbow Coalition and its other groups from 46 states in America, what we are saying very loud and clear is that Ronald Reagan and his billionaire friends do not represent America, but we do.
In some of the largest cities in America, 50% of the kids are not graduating high school. The cost of college education in this country is zooming up, so you have to be a wealthy person to send your kid to college. There was once a dream that my parents had and many people's parents had, that if you work hard and go to school, you can get a college education.
But what people like this gentleman do not know is, for example, that in Scandinavia, in Sweden, you've had socialist governments for decades, that in fact that country is probably, in most respects, more democratic than the United States. They have 80 or 90% of the people voting. They have strong labor unions. They have a more open media. They have a healthcare system guaranteeing healthcare to all of the people. Not to say that that's a utopia.
But at a time when the wealthiest people of this country have seen a tremendous increase in their income, while at the same time the standard of living of working people and poor people has declined, I will be damned if I will vote for a proposal which will stick it to the middle class and the working people. And Mr. Speaker, I've got a problem. I've got a problem with a president and a Congress which allows 5 million children to go hungry, 2 million people to sleep out on the streets, cities to become breeding grounds for drugs and violence. And they say, we're getting tough on crime. If you want to get tough on crime, let's deal with the causes of crime. Let's demand that every man, woman, and child in this country have a decent opportunity and a decent standard of living. Let's not keep putting poor people into jail and disproportionately punishing blacks. While our children go hungry and sleep out on the streets, lack adequate health care or educational opportunity, the wealthiest people in this country have grown far richer while their tax burden has declined. We have an approach to campaign financing which, to a very large degree, allows wealthy people and major corporations to buy and sell politicians. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and ordinary Americans are shut out of the political system. The United States today is one of 2 nations in the industrialized world that does not have a national health care system. That has to do with campaign finance reform. The United States today, the chief executive officers are seeing their salaries soar, and the gap between the rich and the poor grows wider. 10 million Americans are unemployed. That has to do with campaign finance reform. The system, by and large, is owned and controlled by big money interests, and the President of the United States and much of the Congress does the work of protecting the big corporations and the wealthy people who control the economic and political life of this nation. This country, this great country, this democracy, is evolving into an oligarchy. And an oligarchy is a country in which a few people have tremendous wealth and tremendous power and exercise that wealth and that power over all. We have seen a situation where we give huge tax breaks to the wealthy and you have 2 million people sleeping out on the street. Billions of dollars into all kinds of obsolete weapon systems, and you have 5 million children who are hungry. Let us give hope to people in America today who have lost hope. Let us provide jobs for the jobless, housing for the homeless, food for the hungry. Workers in the United States today are working longer hours, significantly longer hours, taking less vacation time than they used to take. And is there any wonder why so many millions of Americans feel stressed out? They need to work longer hours, they need to work overtime in order to compensate for the real decline in their wages. Let's talk about welfare for the rich and the powerful. Now, we start off from a proposition that the wealthiest 1% of the population in this country owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. When we talk about the growth of the economy, what we should ask ourselves is who is gaining that income. And what is clearly going on is the lion's share, the overwhelming amount of the growth in income is going to the very, very wealthiest people,
while the vast majority of the people are seeing a decline in their real incomes.
I find it ironic that it is the taxpayers of this country who are going to have to bail out banks that have made billions and billions of dollars investing in Asia. Is it morally right that CEOs of large corporations now make over 500 times what their workers make and seem to make more money to the degree that they lay off American workers? Walmart has replaced General Motors as the major employer in America, paying people starvation wages rather than living wages. We can fight terrorism, protect the American people without undermining the basic constitutional rights which make us a free country. They understand that our trade policies are failing when they note that our trade deficit is huge and growing larger every single year. And it seems to me, Madam President, that before we go forward again in pursuit of a failing trade agenda, we might want to sit back, take a moratorium, understand why our trade policies are failing, and then put together trade agreements that work for the working people and the middle class of this country rather than just the CEOs of large multinational corporations. The wealthiest 1/10 of 1%, 1/10 of 1%, 300,000 men, women, and children now earn more income than do the bottom 150 million Americans. No matter how many children live in poverty, no matter how high the unemployment numbers are, they want more and more and more. And I say enough is enough. And you want to know why the American people are cynical about what goes on in Washington? You want to know why the Congress of the United States has an extremely low level of support or favorability? It is because the American people know they are getting ripped off. You got millions of people today who are working longer hours and their income is going down. Their wages are going down. This grotesque level of inequality is immoral. It is bad economics. It is unsustainable. This type of rigged economy is not what America is supposed to be about. This has got to change. And as your president, together, we are going to change it. When we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. And I pledge to you that every day I will fight for the public interest, not the corporate interest. I will not abandon any segment of American society, whether you're gay or black or Latino, poor or working class, just because it is politically expedient at a given time. So let us go forward together and let us tell the Republicans that their reactionary agenda may work for the billionaires, but not for ordinary Americans, and we are going to defeat them. Thank you all very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Dan Whitfield. I'm the independent candidate running for United States Senate here in Arkansas to unseat and replace Tom Cotton. So I spent a couple hours today watching some speeches that have motivated me throughout these last few years. I'm trying to figure out how do I want to open this session that we're going to have. And I was just going through listening to speech after speech after speech from all these great people. And it finally hit me, why am I running? What is the goal? The goal is to beat Tom Cotton, to get rid of one of the most corrupt senators in American history, someone who takes tens of millions of dollars from special interest donors, from billionaires, and then votes on legislation that hurts us, the working class, the American people. And, after listening to these speeches, trying to figure out who am I going to go with? Am I going to go with Eisenhower or Kennedy or Roosevelt, Martin Luther King? And then finally, it's like, well, the reason I ran is because Bernie Sanders touched me. He woke me up. He showed me the corruption in our government. And he told me that the only way we're going to take our government back from these special interest donors is when we stand up by the millions, when regular people like you and me say enough is enough, stand up and run for office. And that's why I decided to run for office. So I figured that would be the best intro to this. I love that video. It's so great. It gets me so pumped and emotional every time. So y'all have been following me, everything we've been going through for almost a year now. We've been going through this whole process. And it started all the way, I think my first campaign event was July 4th of 2019. I went to the Pops on the River event down in Little Rock, and I didn't have $250 to rent a booth, to stand there with a booth and talk to people behind a banner. So I improvised. We put my banner outside the line, and I stood outside the gates, and I talked to people as they came in and as they left. And it started completely grassroots like that, all the way to when I filed on November 4th at about 12:06 p.m. I was the 6th candidate in Arkansas to file to run for office in Arkansas, the first U.S. Senate candidate. And I still have a screenshot on my phone from the board where the people who had filed, it said, Bernie Sanders President, Dan Whitfield, U.S. Senate. I love that picture. Well, it's been quite a journey all the way from there until where we are here now today. We have gone through the signature collection process. We started in January only to find our state legislators had changed the laws to make it harder for independents to gain ballot access when they found out that an independent was running against Tom Cotton. And the state representative who submitted that legislation in the first place happened to also be the state representative who verified the information, the damaging information on the Democrat. So they knew they were going to get the Democrat out. They were going to blackmail him. They tried to make it harder for third parties to get ballot access, and they tried to steal this election and rig it for Senator Tom Cotton. Now, unfortunately, they were successful in rigging it against the Democrat. They got him to drop out an hour. Well, they put out a press release 1 hour after the filing deadline, and then he dropped out 1 hour after that, 2 hours after the filing deadline, making this a near historic race with no Democrat in it. The next thing that happened was they tried to raise the signature requirements from 10,000 up to 26,000, I believe 764. And they tried to make it harder for third parties to get ballot access to run against Tom Cotton. That way they could push their narrative of Tom Cotton is running unopposed, which I'm sure a majority of Americans have seen in the headlines from the New York Times to the Washington Post to local media sources. Now, the Libertarian Party of Arkansas sued our Secretary of State, John Thurston, and they were successful in their lawsuit to get the signature requirement reduced from 26,000 back down to 10,000. So that was amazing. After that, they paid a canvassing company $55,000 to get their 10,000 signatures, and they got their ballot access in the summer of 2019. As an independent candidate, I had a fixed collection period. I had to collect 10,000 verified signatures between February 1st and May the 1st of 2020. Unfortunately, there was no way to foresee COVID-19 affecting our entire world. A worldwide pandemic hit us. And on March 13th, the governor, Asa Hutchinson, issued orders of the state to declare a state of emergency, which at that point I spoke with my volunteers, with my team, and we decided that if a volunteer no longer felt safe collecting signatures in person, then of course put your safety first. And we stopped physical collection almost 100% at that point. So we did everything we could. I didn't want to give up on y'all, so I kept going, and I reached out to every other independent candidate running in the state of Arkansas. There were only about 8 of us, and 6 of them answered their phone numbers, or answered their phone. One of them had the wrong phone number, and one of them didn't have any information at all. And I drafted a letter to the Governor Asa Hutchinson asking for independents to get relief for ballot access due to COVID-19 in the form of a signature reduction, a deadline extension, or to allow digital petitioning. Governor Asa Hutchinson ignored our order. He has taken campaign contributions from my opponent, Tom Cotton. So we sent that letter to the Secretary of State, John Thurston. I sent it actually 3 times certified to him after all of the independents had signed it. And he continued to ignore us. His office is closed due to COVID-19, so I called his office, didn't answer. I emailed them, and finally his staff responded stating that they did not have the authority to do any of those things. So at that point, it was in late April, we knew we had to take legal action if we were to beat Tom Cotton in November. So we did a fundraiser, and I was able to raise, I think it was almost $2,000 in a 24-hour span, which was the biggest 24-hour fundraising event we had to raise enough funds to pay for our retainer for our lawyer. And we went through the process. We had our hearing on May 24th, I believe, or May 27th. I'm sorry, it's been a while. And 30 days later, on June 24th, Judge Baker declared that she ruled in favor of John Thurston and said that COVID-19 was not a severe burden, that it was a significant burden, however, not a severe one. So we appealed her decision into the 8th Circuit Courts. And we filed our appeal on June the 28th, the following Monday, because she put it out, I believe it was on a Wednesday or Thursday. And after we filed our appeal, we waited for our case number. After we got our case number, then we filed the transcripts. And as soon as those were filed, we filed our expedite. And we filed our first expedite on July 8th, which is more than 2 months ago. And on July 9th, the United States Attorney General, William Barr, came here to Arkansas and met with my opponent, Tom Cotton, and the Secretary of State's Defense Counsel, the Attorney General, Leslie Rutledge, who's also taking campaign contributions from Tom Cotton. And they had a closed-door meeting, and that was on July 9th. They waited 12 days, and on July the 20th, they filed a motion to oppose our expedite. And I believe it was 1 or 2 days after that, the motion to oppose our expedite was approved, and they did not expedite our case. They deemed that it would cause, in the motion to oppose our expedite, they deemed it would cause electoral chaos. So we filed a second expedite, and to no avail, our second expedite was also denied. I did everything I could to make sure I could get on the ballot. We're still actually in the legal process for ballot access, but unfortunately, the Attorney General had until August the 21st to file their reply brief, and on August the 21st was when the September oral argument schedule was published and created. They waited until 7:44 p.m. at the end of business day, so that way they had to wait until August 24th to have their reply brief reviewed and approved, and we were not able to get into the September oral arguments because of that. We were hoping at that point to get into the October oral arguments because we still had a whole, basically 2 months to go before the arguments would be taking place. Unfortunately, the October oral argument schedule was published last Friday at about 1 p.m., and our name is not on it. They will not be hearing our case in October. Early voting starts October 19th, and you have to mail in your absentee ballots by, at the latest, October 27th, and then the election will be on November 3rd. So I have been trying to figure out how we can get into the October oral arguments. I've talked to my attorney. I asked him if we could file another expedite. He said they've already denied 2. They'll just deny this one as well. So he doesn't want to file another expedite. We've reached out. They had 3 cases removed from the September oral arguments, but refused to add us into them in replacement of one of those 3 cases. And I'm not thinking that at this point they will be able to have one of the October ones on the schedule drop out and replace us with them. So I don't think we're going to be able to get into the October oral arguments, and that means, unfortunately, we will not have our ballot access hearing until after the election. This is what the GOP wanted in the first place. They wanted to make sure that we would not have ballot access because I mean, y'all are amazing. The amount of just support that y'all have shown me, all the way from my closest team and my leaders to my supporters to my donors to everybody that lifted me up every time the system and some of the haters and trolls tried to push me down. You guys have just been so amazing throughout this entire process, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys so much. Now, I never wanted to be a politician. I'm just a regular guy. I'm a full-time student. I was pursuing a computer informations degree. I did fortunately graduate my Associates of Applied Science magna cum laude last semester, so I am moving forward for my bachelor's, and I've changed my major to information systems instead of computer science. I'm just a regular guy. I've got an awesome wife. I've got a 7-year-old little girl. I work. I had 2 jobs until I took leave from Domino's, where I was a pizza guy just working on the weekends, trying to make an extra few bucks while I'm in school to pay the bills. So I'll probably go back to working at Domino's on the weekends here soon now. And I never wanted to be a politician. I saw what was going on, and I wanted change. I didn't feel like I was being represented. I felt like the only people being represented are the billionaires and corporations that are giving our legislators just insane amounts of money. And after experiencing all of this firsthand, after having gone through, corruption from the governor to the secretary of state, to the attorney general, to state legislators passing laws to help their buddies out, I'm just getting started. We're not going to give up here. I will be immediately, as of now, I am suspending my campaign to unseat and replace Tom Cotton. I've been trying so hard not to, because we really can't afford 6 more years of this warmongering lunatic in office. But at this point, there's just no possible way for me to get onto the ballot before the election. Now, I will never tell you how to vote. That is not me. That's not what a democracy is. Personally, as an American citizen, I'll probably vote for the Libertarian candidate Ricky Harrington Jr. I don't really like him. He kind of lied about us on TV. I don't really like him, and I don't really like his party. I'm very terrified of the Libertarian Party. I don't think corporate deregulation and getting rid of consumer safety nets is a good idea. I really don't like the Libertarian platform. And what am I going to do? I'm not going to vote for Tom Cotton, so I'll vote for the guy I don't like over the guy who's truly evil. But that's how I'm going to vote personally. I'm not endorsing the Libertarian Ricky Harrington. I won't support him or his party's platform, because to run as a Libertarian, you have to agree to follow their platform. You have to uphold it. He's in a contract. So I won't endorse or support him, but I will vote for him, because I'm not going to vote for Tom Cotton. That's just what a protest vote is. It's just amazing, though, what the GOP has gone through to make sure that Tom Cotton will win this year. They have effectively rigged an election here in Arkansas. So where do we go from here? What do we do next? I'm going to try to keep this short, because I know we all have about 20 minutes until the big event starts. I'm going to send out an email with an invite to all of my donors. We have about 1,900 donors. We were able to raise about $65,000, completely grassroots. 80% of our donations were from small individual contributions of less than $200. And 20% of our contributions were from large individual contributions of between $200 to $1,000. So we've been completely grassroots. Your guys' support is just amazing. And I think that since y'all are the ones who were able to lift me up, keep me going, and finance this campaign, it should be your decision on where we go from here. What you want me to do with my future in politics, and what you want me to do with your donations. So I'll be sending that invite out to everybody who's donated. And we'll go from there. It's been quite an amazing year, y'all. Again, I've met so many wonderful people. I'd love to just name off my team. I don't want to really put y'all on blast. But of course, Nikki, thank you so much from the beginning. Mr. Jim, Heather, you really helped me get organized in the beginning when I needed it the most. Eric, you've just been the most help, Eric. Thank you so much. Damon, you're awesome, bro. Thank you so much for joining me for that week-long trip. It was just so much fun. It was so much fun. I hope we can do it again sometime. And of course, Mr. Chris, everything you've done has just been outstanding. The time you put in, thank you so much. And then my press secretary, Janie, she's been with me the whole time. Thank you so much, Janie. I really appreciate you hanging in there, just sticking with it. And, you know, you guys are just amazing. All of our campaign, the only people we paid were some fundraisers. We paid them like $2,500. They made us like $2,500. But they did help. Thank you guys so much. And everybody else, it was 100% volunteer. Eric for handling my Instagram. Thank you so much. My website development team, graphics development team. I know I'm not going to say your name, but you know who you are behind closed door, who's just been there talking me through with different kinds of insights and things like that. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And you know, we're just getting started. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet. That'll be up to my donors and y'all, my supporters. You know, I can run against Rutledge for governor. I can run against Bozeman for Senate. Bozeman votes with Tom Cotton 98% of the time. He's not an evil guy like Cotton is. He's not as open about how terrible he is, but he's still voting in a way that's not good for us, that hurts us. There's Jason Rappert, one of the most crazy human beings, a religious extremist running for lieutenant governor. There are different options out there. Secretary of State, I could run against John Thurston, the man who decided that he would single-handedly take issues off of our ballots because his party didn't want them on there through technicalities, disenfranchising hundreds of thousands of Arkansan voters. So there are options, and we'll go over our options, and I'll let you all decide what you want me to do to go from here. But thank you guys so much again for all of your support. I've just met so many wonderful people along the way, and I couldn't have kept this up without y'all. I was really hoping we could get in all the way through into November, get on the ballot, and beat Tom Cotton, because I know it. I can see from the support. I can see from everybody's frustration and how everybody wants change. We would have beaten Tom Cotton, and that's why they're trying so hard to keep us off the ballot. Now, I am not dropping my lawsuit. We're going to keep the lawsuit going, and it'll get heard whenever it gets heard. It'll probably be November, possibly even December, but we are going to set a precedent. We are going to make sure that independent candidates no longer need to collect 10,000 signatures in a fixed period, unlike every other third party. We're going to make sure that independent candidates for the United States Senate don't need 10 times as many signatures to get ballot access as a independent U.S. presidential candidate. So we're going to address these things and try to get this fixed for future candidates to make sure that everybody will have the option and opportunity to run for office if they so choose and have public support. So thank you guys so much again for everything. I'm going to continue my live streams. I'm not going to stop. We're still going to talk about what's going on in politics. We're still going to talk about what's going on in our local state administration, what kind of corruption is taking place, because that's why I'm running. I'm trying to get elected into office to get the corruption out of our government that we all see is there. So we're going to keep going. I'm going to do my live streams. If I don't do them every Saturday, maybe every other Saturday, so I can start to spend more time on my schooling. I'm in harder math classes now. They take more of my time. And of course, I want to spend more time with my wife and daughter, who've sacrificed so much throughout this campaign with my time and helping me campaign and traveling the state. I think we drove nearly 20,000 miles driving around the state in a few months. So, you know, they're my support. You're my support. Thank you guys so much. But my name's Dan Whitfield. I was the independent candidate running to unseat and replace Tom Cotton, the progressive candidate, the candidate fighting for Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, the federal decriminalization of cannabis and national expunging cannabis convictions, law enforcement reform, so many important things that we can't just stop. We can't give up the fight. We can't let them win. So I'm in it to win it. I'm in it for y'all. And thank you guys so much again for your support. May God bless y'all. May God bless America. May God bless Arkansas and all of the people in it. Let's get through these troubling times. Let's come together, get rid of this crazy polarized Republican Democrat nonsense, and come together over the issues that are facing all of us, whether we're Republicans or Democrats. The facts that we have some of the highest taxes in America, we have some of the lowest wages in America, some of the worst healthcare, the worst education. These are problems that we're all facing together, and we will come together and we will defeat these problems. We'll tackle them, and we will make sure that our children don't suffer and struggle the way that we have been suffering. But thank you all so much. You guys have a good night. Enjoy the debate starting about 15 minutes now. So I will, I'll be here. Give me a call, send me a message, shoot me an email. I'll always be here to answer your questions. But I'll get the email sent out here in just a little bit, and I will let you all know where to go from here.